Batman Begins versus Gladiator.
I'll take Batman Begins over Gladiator.
I would have taken Batman as well.
Planet of the Apes, the 2001 version, versus Ant-Man.
Nah, neither.
Ocean's 12 versus The Truman Show.
Truman Show.
Truman Show.
Training Day versus War of the Worlds.
Training Day.
Haven't seen it.
Star Wars Episode 2 versus Star Wars Episode 3.
Episode 3.
2, obviously.
No.
Attack of the Clones versus Revenge of the Sith on this episode of Film Fights. Hello everyone and welcome to Film Fights, the podcast that uses a random movie generator to pit two films against each other on a quest to be the next movie that I and maybe you listening out there sit down to watch. My name is Matt Dodd. Today I'm joined by Jordan Johnston and Mohamad Jomaa to represent Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones versus Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Before we get into that fight though, our last winner, Mr. Joe Warner, chose Paper Moon for us to talk about first. You guys seen that film?
Negative.
I don't know what that is.
All right. Well, the winning film was The Shining. Have you seen that film?
Yes, I have.
What do you think of The Shining?
Love it.
Why do you love it?
I do like Stephen King, and I like horror. I like Jack Nicholson. I like that kind of stuff.
What about you?
Scared the pants off me. Like, it was scary. I'll leave it at that.
Creepy, dark, exciting.
Good movie.
It's great.
Scary.
Movie. All right, so getting on to tonight's battle. We'll go with ladies first. Jordan Johnston,
Hi.
representing Revenge of the Sith.
Let's do it.
How long has it been since you saw that movie?
I've seen it within the last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rewatched all of them coming up to Star Wars 7, or?
I would say I watched it by itself on a random rainy Saturday. And then in preparation for Force Awakens, I watched it
Again?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so if the listeners at home didn't catch Revenge of the Sith, give them like a quick little synopsis. What happens in that movie?
So this is the movie that sets in play kind of the traditional Star Wars that you're used to. And you know the story of Darth Vader, and you see him kind of take his, I guess, rise to darkness or fall from greatness. And you see kind of his personal struggles, and not only with the Jedis, but, you know, his love life and fear and all the good stuff that makes people go crazy.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. So I turn to you, Mr. Mohamad Jomaa. Welcome
What up?
back. You have Attack of the Clones.
Yes,
The movie that came just before Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, the best of the prequels. Episode 2.
All right. When was the last time you saw Attack of the Clones?
Just about a year ago.
Watched it in preparation?
I did. My wife had not seen any of the Star Wars movies, so we watched all 6 last summer. Had a tough time deciding which order to watch all 6 of them in.
What did you wind up doing?
I ended up, so online there's the machete order, which if you've heard of is sort of like a guy sort of figured out a good order to watch them in. And I really tossed that around for a little while, but ended up not doing that. And watching them in order of theatrical release, I figured if I started with episode 1, she was not going to get on board.
No,
so 4, 5, 6, which was great. But then, just like everybody else, we went back and had to watch 1, 2, and 3. And we're just in pain, and which brings me to my point that I don't think either of these are very good movies.
It's the better of the options, though.
Yeah,
that's what we're going for.
It is
here.
definitely the best of the prequels, and
what,
by a landslide.
We'll get into that in a second. But so, what is Attack of the Clones about? We know a little bit of Revenge of the Sith. We're kind of out of order.
The
movies are out of order.
It is.
They were released mixed up.
It is. It's the story of sort of Anakin in his Jedi training under Obi-Wan Kenobi, not really being able to control his emotions, starting to sort of lean towards some anti-Jedi, pro-Sith behaviors. But larger than that, I would say that it is about Palpatine in the way that he is setting up his takeover and the boom of the Empire. There's also kind of like a film noir thing going on with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, don't try to give them film too much credit. But all right, thank you. So it's time to convince me on what I'm going to watch this weekend or an option for me to watch. I really don't think I'm going to watch one of these.
You're lost.
But hey,
You're
this could be an interesting argument because you both get to try to convince me why I'm going to watch or why I ever should rewatch one of these because I didn't. It's been years since I've rewatched both of these. I've only watched them once.
You're in the theaters.
I didn't. Actually, it wasn't even in the theaters.
Uh-oh.
After watching the first one, I didn't care enough to even be like seeing 2 and 3. I was like, whatever, I'll catch up to it eventually. I love 7. I did not rewatch all of them to get to that. I was like, I don't need it.
Really?
I'm fine.
Come on.
They're prequels. They don't matter. It doesn't.
True. They really don't matter.
So I don't know how I could ever justify even watching the prequels. I know we have these 2 movies, so it's like one or the other.
I know I literally just said that they're not good movies, but I think there are things about episode 2 in particular that are very redeeming and entertaining to watch, to go back and watch. And I don't think that you can say that about episode 3.
I don't remember extremely well which is which, like where things lie. I know that 3 is the culmination of everything, but 2 I remember being very slow, very political.
It is. It's almost like a political thriller. It is literally about how Palpatine is able to sort of get the Senate and kind of manipulate the Senate into creating what will be the Empire, and how he got the clone army, the stormtroopers, and it's more about Palpatine's rise to power than anything else. And we didn't see episode 3. We know what happens in episode 3. We know that Anakin is going to go to the dark side. He's going to fight Obi-Wan, and he's going to, lose the battle, become Darth Vader, and they're going to take the twins and whatever. We know exactly how it's going to play out. 2 is the only one where we really kind of can see things that we've only sort of knew only to a little extent.
All right, I'm going to come back to you on that point in a second. But so first, Jordan, is that why you enjoyed 3? Because it does have that culmination of the story and all that. What really brings 3 up in your mind?
To me, the prequel, and George Lucas has said this before, like those were made to show Darth Vader's redemption. That it was this big, it wasn't as much as him being the villain, but it's a story of him, his redeeming qualities. And you can't see how far he's come unless you see him fall. And yes, we know that he fights Obi-Wan. You also know who plays each other in the Super Bowl. Like, you're going to still watch the Super Bowl. You want to watch it. And no one is really like, oh my gosh, that political scene where they like talk to each other on these floaty things was really cool. But you will talk about and remember the lightsaber battle.
I will.
You will remember that.
But I think
you can't tell me.
To your point that if these movies are about Anakin and his, how he failed, so that his redemption is that much better, which I agree with, and that is kind of the beautiful thing of 4, 5, and 6 is Anakin's sort of redemption. Right. But to show how Anakin failed over 3 movies, I would say that they failed miserably at that. Like the Anakin part of the movie is the most boring part of all 3 movies. His storyline is the one thing in those movies that is painful to watch. I mean,
well, I think part of that is Hayden Christensen.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But that's so much of episode 3. So much of episode 3 is Hayden whining or Anakin whining and sort of going, oh, Padme, I don't know what to do. I'm so angry. And honestly, Padme, who's an amazing character in episode 2, so like tough and smart, and strong. All of a sudden, in episode 3 is just like, oh, Anakin, whatever you think. I don't know. I guess you know best. It
Chill
makes
out.
no
She's pregnant.
sense. She said it.
As a female, I can say that to be true.
She's pregnant and then just completely dissolves as a character into kind of a puddle that Anakin just sort of does whatever he wants.
And I think arguably that's the underlying problem with all of the prequels is just the writing in general is just not.
Yeah, their relationship is really terrible, I would say. And even in episode 2. But at least in 2 you have that, like I said, sort of this other thing, the Obi-Wan story of, he's trying to figure out where this clone army came from and sort of uncovering this clone army and starting, the war against the droids, and kind of uncovering that. And I know we know, because just like in 3, we do know that Palpatine is, the Sith Lord. We know that he is the guy kind of controlling the Senate, but we didn't really see how it happened. How he used, God forbid me mentioning his name, but Jar Jar Binks to kind of be this puppet in the Senate, and how he really manipulated everything to lead him to the place where he could create the Empire, the evil Empire, and how the Jedi really do sort of start losing in Episode 2. 3 is very much about Anakin. It's not about anybody else. It's not about the world that they live in.
Are kind of about Anakin.
Well, that's my point, is that Anakin's the worst
especially.
part of the movie, and 2 is the least about him.
One part that stood out to me in Episode 3 that it resonated with me was Obi-Wan struggling to see his Padawan, like somebody he invested so much time and energy and love into, just literally like shatter in front of him. And he saw it, and it was before they fought each other in the volcanoes. Like that to me was a true, genuine struggle, and I didn't.
Well, I agree.
Ewan McGregor and his acting.
He's easily the best part of really all 3 movies. But I think he very much carries the scene in Episode 3 at the end, because he is doing a very good job. And you're right, they do actually show his blindness and then his ultimate disappointment with Anakin, and they do that very well. But they do that kind of over all 3 movies, because even in 2, there's a lot of great moments between the two of them. But see, this goes to my point, is that the better part of the duo is Obi-Wan. And Episode 2 is kind of Obi-Wan's movie. He gets to fight Jango Fett. He gets to go into that giant battle riding that CGI dinosaur thing, right?
Yeah.
Sounds so good.
Are you convinced yet?
Well,
You're
no,
not.
I
You're
don't
not convinced
that.
on Episode 2.
I'm not convinced on either one.
Okay, let me tell you this, Matt. You don't remember, but Episode 3 is about Padme and Anakin. And they just kind of whine and teeter-totter with each other, and they don't know what to do. And literally every other scene in that movie is a conversation where he's like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, I don't know, Anakin. I just want everything to be okay. And he's like, I'll make everything okay. I'll show you. I mean, it's the cheesiest dialogue.
Calm down.
It's the entire movie.
2, you forgot about Obi-Wan's battle with General Grievous, which is much better than his 2-second lame fight
with Jango Fett. Nothing's better than watching Jango Fett fight Obi-Wan Kenobi. Get real.
Nothing.
And the prequels, that's the best part. That's the one part in all 3 prequels where I was like in my seat, like, yeah.
No.
Come on.
No.
He has a
best
jetpack.
Woo!
Yeah.
This worked so well for Boba Fett in the original trilogy.
Yeah, but think about
what was the use for that? But that's all right. That's the side point.
But let's talk about lightsaber battles here.
Well, the best one is in Episode 1 against Darth Maul.
Not in this conversation.
Okay.
In 2
Just
or 3?
being honest.
In 2 or 3.
What's your favorite one?
Easily Obi-Wan and Anakin's.
Okay.
It is.
Also, Yoda fights Palpatine.
Yeah, but it's an
3.
old creature and
It's
an
good.
old guy. It's
one's
good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yoda's
But
flipping all around.
Palpatine's
That's in 3,
face
right? Yeah, that's in 3. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. When they're like in his office.
I'm just throwing you a bone.
I still wanted Yoda to be a puppet.
I know.
That would have been a cooler fight.
CGI
as a puppet.
Yoda was a little like...
I
I was like, oh, you're just like a green blur floating around the screen. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I wasn't too big of a fan of that. I will watch the lightsaber battle of Anakin and Obi-Wan.
There's a line that he says in that scene. Obi-Wan says to Anakin, he says, don't you see the Sith are evil? And Anakin says, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. I mean, if that doesn't just ruin the scene right there, That's some of the worst dialogue, some of the most obvious dialogue.
That is a 3-second moment.
It kills it.
5-minute sequence.
It literally, every time Anakin
are-
opens his mouth in episode 3, it kills it. It kills a scene.
I would argue on the other...
Padme, too, honestly. She's just as poorly
Oh,
written.
whoa.
She's
Don't diss my
very
girl
poorly
like
written.
that.
I love Padme
no.
in episode 2 when she was still a bad when she was still running around, running the Senate. She was there. She had her gun out, man. She tore her shirt across the stomach. I had that poster up on my wall for like years. You know what I mean? It's got
Me
the
too.
tear.
It's fine.
Yeah. All white,
All right.
white pants. No,
So-
Padme was awesome then. And then in 3, she becomes, like I said, just sort of this whiny puddle that Anakin just does whatever he wants to. She has no backbone. And then
We'll see.
finally at the end,
So
she gets an
far,
Obi-Wan.
Mohamad does seem to have the higher ground in this argument. So was your favorite scene in the movie that fight itself?
Yes, maybe because there was the least amount of dialogue. Maybe that is the reason why. But you watch that scene, or at least I watched that scene, and I'm like drawn in. I grew up watching all of them, and that was the most skilled, that was the most intense choreography, at least. I can't help but watch that and be like, whoa. My brother and I tried to do that a couple times.
In a volcano?
Not in a volcano. Okay. We didn't have one of those.
Yeah, shame.
We didn't have one of those growing up.
But I definitely got some bruises, though, from trying to do that. And from the lightsabers we had. But
Nice.
Whatever. I really enjoy that scene. My second favorite is, sadly, when Anakin just decides to take everybody out.
Okay.
You see the real...
Crosses into that full dark side.
Right, because I think episodes 4, 5, and 6, you see Darth Vader, you see him be angry, you see him be upset. You see in episode 2, you see him kill the people that killed his mom. Spoiler. But you don't really... And you know that Anakin made this turn, but you haven't seen the actual Jedi kids on the ground. Mm-hmm. You just hear about all these bad things that he's done. That's the moment where you actually kind of feel for these people that aren't there anymore. And there's nobody in the temple. There's nobody around. And it's all been replaced with stormtroopers. Like, that was a real...
It is a very exciting moment.
Yeah, and then you see him in the dark cloak, red in his eyes. And
Terminator
you see
style.
Yeah.
Episode 2 is setting up Anakin. He has gone to the dark side, right? We know that this is happening. When he kills the people who killed his mother, kidnapped and then killed her or whatever.
I didn't like his mom,
when
but
he,
whatever.
She was weird. Midichlorians, Immaculate Conception.
Yeah.
Get out of here. When he does kill those people, we are witnessing him go to the dark side. We know it's happening. And then over the course of 3, what happens? He yammers, he hangs around, then he kills a bunch of kids.
He killed all the Jedi.
Yes, it takes 3 hours, 2.5 hours for them to get to a point that they were already at. We already knew that he was going to the dark side. At least in episode 2, you are like on the edge of your seat seeing what's happening with, yes, it is a political thriller, like I said. Yes, it is sort of this Senate hearings and Obi-Wan kind of being a detective and trying to figure things out. But at least you're like interested. And the first time you watch it, you are definitely kind of like, now what's going on? Who are these aliens making clones of? Oh yeah, that's Jango Fett. Oh yeah, that's
kind
awesome.
Of being
Yeah,
like,
Boba
what's
Fett.
going
Son,
on,
that's
but
cool.
not that I was
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah.
I remember just being
Same
like,
boat.
what's going on?
Same
I don't, whatever.
And in episode 3, you talked about, you see Anakin, get to this point. It's getting there. But where it's taking its time in episode 3 is Palpatine luring him. That's the big key. Like how that relationship started between Darth Vader. You see him get his name, Darth Vader. Like that, you can't have 4, 5, and 6 if you don't see him get his freaking name.
Oh, I could have 4, 5, and 6. I had 4, 5, and 6 before. I didn't need his name set up.
Yes, you did. You didn't know you needed it.
No, I definitely didn't need it.
You needed to see the relationship between Palpatine and Anakin form, and you needed to see him kind of slime his way into corrupting Anakin, who's just scared. and you see this person of power use their power to take over, and he was fine. He was a fine person. Okay. He was fine. And then Palpatine just went in and decided to put evil thoughts in his head.
Great discussion, guys. Before we wrap everything up, we have a few quick trivia questions. Okay. See how much you really know your films.
Oh, boy.
First off, they were close, but according to Wikipedia, which movie had the higher budget, and roughly what was that budget out of your two?
I would say episode 3 has the bigger budget.
I would also say that.
90 million.
200 million.
Okay.
Episode 3 cost 113 million, but episode 2 cost 120 million.
Really?
Which I find really weird. I would think the third one would be.
There's bigger fight scenes in the second one, though. There's more CGI in the second one, probably.
I guess so.
Because it was that big battle.
For episode 3, the original theatrical release was 2 hours and 20 minutes. But how long was the first cut of the film?
I'll go 3 hours and 7 minutes.
I'll go 3:40.
It was 4 hours long.
Holy shirts and pants.
The opening scene was rescuing Palpatine, which was over an hour.
What?
I don't know how anyone could ever be like,
That's
this is going to
3,
work, guys. This is good. How many years after episode 1 is Attack the Clones set?
12 years.
Maybe 6 years. 7 years.
10 years a slave. 10 years. Sorry.
Wait, what'd you say?
12.
What'd I say?
6. Yeah. So I guess Price is Right rules. You were...
Price is Right.
What?
I still don't know.
No, Price is Right rules are awful.
This is a discussion we had in a previous episode. I'm not sure how we're supposed to really judge these things, but that's fine. How many people were required to play all the stormtroopers in episode 3?
0.
25.
0 is correct. They're all CGI.
Every single one of them CGI?
Yep,
That's
I
what
knew
this
it.
trivia question says.
I see. I've not watched that movie in long enough to... That's stupid. That is just dumb. Like, why wouldn't you get a couple of them?
A script was supposedly leaked for Attack the Clones and was offered online for how much money?
$1.5 million.
$45.
It was $100,000, so I guess if we're going by Price is Right rules.
Oh, I should have said $1.
All right, so we'll get on to the trivia questions. I'm going to give you guys a last chance to make a point that you forgot earlier, or really just hammer something home. Jordan will let you go first. Give you about a minute or so. Why episode 3?
If anything, the closing scene of when Darth Vader, after all of his surgeries, and they pull him up in the smoke and he's just there and he breathes for that first time, you can't tell me you don't get goosebumps. 2, before he was all jacked up, Hayden Christensen is at least good looking. So, no braids, no rat tails. Come on. That's at least something.
I don't know. Okay. All right. I'm not going to argue.
Hammering home the lightsaber battle. It's pretty cool. The evolution of the lightsaber battle. How far it's come. 4th point, you can't have the other movies without this. You have to see him fall. You have to see the bad acting. You have to see Obi-Wan be crushed and look at him and say, "You are my brother." And you can't get the rest of the movies on as deep of a level if you don't see that relationship.
Mohamad, what point do you want to make? You got the last argument here.
Jordan will have you watch a terrible, terrible movie to get to the last 20 minutes of it, just so we can see Darth Vader go, no.
I didn't say the no part. I said the part.
I would have you go back and rewatch an interesting story that happens within Star Wars. The story of the clone army. The story of how the stormtroopers became the stormtroopers. And the story of Palpatine manipulating the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we are all kind of agreeing that, these aren't necessarily the best movies in the world, or not even close to the best Star Wars movies in the world. But if we had to look at both of them, which one would we take? I hate both of them. I do not want to watch either one of them. I'd recommend anyone just watch 4, 5, and 6, and then 7. Don't worry about the prequel trilogy. If you are going to rewatch them, I feel like I liked 3 more, but man, it's been so long. I'm going to give the argument to Mohamad.
Hey-o!
Because he makes it seem like maybe there's more going on in 2 than I remember.
I mean, if
gosh,
you
I
want to
don't
watch
think that's
people
right.
talk around and, argue and get all political, I'll give you lots of political drama.
I mean, that's how I feel like those movies.
Whatever.
Maybe Mohamad's just lying to me, and really
I'm
building
not.
up this story, but he's making it seem like there's more there than I really remember.
Have fun
and
with
I
it.
do
I will
remember
say there's not
3.
much more, but there's a little.
Yeah.
I do remember 3, in some of the action scenes, and they're fine, but there are a lot of the cheesiest parts of it too, and I just don't. I can't do it. Jordan, where can we find you online? Do you have a Twitter account? Do you have anywhere we need to talk to you?
Twitter, Jordan W. Johnston.
Thank you very much. Mohamad, where can we find you?
At Jomaa. Do people still say that? Mojomaa. I write reviews of ice cream that I eat.
Sure does. You can find me online at Matthew Dodd. Mohamad, since you won, you get to pick a bonus film. I'll let you close out the show the last minute or so.
How about I kind of flip the script and go with a movie that's sort of based on the anti-Star Wars Star Trek and say Galaxy Quest. It's on Netflix.
Nice.
We recently lost the great Alan Rickman, who is wonderful in that movie. It's a hilarious and almost smart, poignant look at sort of the Star Trek culture, but I guess you could say the sort of popular sci-fi culture in general. And it's a very, very good movie. If you haven't seen it, I know it kind of looks cheesy and it's Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver, but that is a fantastic movie.
I mean,
Very
it
funny.
is. It's a cheesy movie to a degree, but it's playing up on it. It is kind of that parody. So yeah,
Right.
I like that choice.
Yes. Have you seen it?
I have.
I love that movie.
Actually, just rewatched it after Alan Rickman.
Sam
died.
Rockwell too is really funny.
Sam
in
Rockwell's
it.
great.
Yeah.
Tony Shalhoub.
Tanner Shalhoub.
Yeah.
And
Good film.
yeah.
Very cool.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much. It's been fun.
It has been fun. It's always fun when I
Been
win.
real. May the force be with you. Had to be
And
said.
also with you. That's what Catholics say, I think.
And enjoy the movies, everyone. Thanks for listening to this episode of Film Fights. If you like the podcast, please subscribe for weekly episodes and share it with your friends. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes or wherever you might be listening to this, as it greatly helps with discoverability for others to find the show. As always, you can discuss this episode and find daily random matchups at our Film Fights Podcast Facebook page. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week with another episode.